Girls, what is the most embarrassing thing a guy ever did to you on a date? Nothing too horrible, but this guy suddenly became super awkward when the date was over. He gave me an awkward hug and couldn't run away fast enough. He texted me almost immediately after apologizing. I think he just had to poop. He got mad at someone and ripped off his shirt. Not like he took it off abruptly. He freaking grabs the middle of his shirt with 2 claw hands and tears it off his body screaming. I was stunned. Never in my life could I have even imagined I would see that and be on a date with that. I took him to the zoo with me, for free I might add, because I had a guest membership, and he showed up wearing a speaker backpack. While we walked around he played loud reggae music out of it and even made us stop a couple hours into our day to swap out his phone batteries and continue playing loud, obnoxious reggae music everywhere we went. Needless to say I declined to join him for lunch afterward and I never spoke to him again. No woman, no cry. He took me on a first date to Six Flags. Didn't tell me that his 2 friends were going as well. While we were in line he gave me a pass that ended up being his brother's with long hair because I could pass. Apparently I made a derpy face on one of the roller coasters, and it showed up in the after roller coaster photo. He took a picture of it on his phone, and it was all he could talk about the rest of the day. Literally brought it up every 5 minutes even after I made it clear I didn't think it was funny anymore. At the end of the night he made a big deal of the fact I wouldn't kiss him in front of his friends, and told me that I owed him more for gas than I had given him. How old were you? I feel that age is important here. This guy and I were on a date at a big festival. We were walking and holding hands. Ahead he sees his brother and friend coming and he quickly drops my hand and sort of pushes me away like he doesn't want to be seen with me. Another guy and I were at a restaurant on our first and only date. He ordered steak and the waitress forgot our silverware. He just picked it up with his hands and started eating it. Second story equals top bloke. Wasn't really a date but a guy making eyes at my friend and I from across a bar flagged down a guy with a cooler whom he assumed was selling roses. He paid the guy and then pointed at our table. Cooler guy comes over and serves us hot chicken wings. The guy runs over and apologizes profusely while his friends were falling down laughing. We're having drinks in the city center. He points out some flats nearby and says he's starting renting one Solon, then asks me if I wanna move in with him. First date. And people say romance is dead. His dad owned a bakery, and he helped out on the weekends. One day we went to the movies after he was at the bakery, and he was talking animatedly about this new yeast, and how it was making life very hard for him. The lady in front turned around, and recommended he go see a doctor. I felt so bad for him. I'd probably die of laughter if I was that guy. That sounds hilarious. He was nearly silent during the entire date and then started on a 15-minute rant about the ancient brothels of Pompeii, going into far too much detail about the goings on in them than is appropriate discussion for a first date. And the whole time he had melted vanilla ice cream on his chin after he refused to get napkins for himself. Everybody knows you save the Pompeii brothel talk for the second date. Went out on a date with a guy. The whole time all he was talking about was how much he worked out and if I worked out because I wasn't a gross fat chick. As we are walking back to his car, he puts on our EO Speedwagon and asks me if I liked them. When I reply, they are okay, he goes into a 15-minute rant about how awesome they are and if I am a brown girl who likes anime and Genesis then I should certainly like them. So, once I'm at home, by this time I'm done and I know I'll never speak to him again. I thank him for the date and prepare to say this won't work, but he asks me, so since I paid and crap and you're super cute, you think I could come inside? Get you off? I work magic with my fingers. No thank you, bye bye. Took me to a cash only seafood restaurant, announced he was a vegan, forgot to bring cash, and then sent back 2 glasses of wine that were corked. I had asked out a guy I knew for a while but he gave me a speech about how uninterested he was and how girls always mistake his kindness for romantic interest. I got the point, didn't pursue it, but after a couple of months he changes his mind, tells me he'd like to give it a go and invites me to a movie. Within the first 5 minutes he's telling me, in mid-July with sun shining in my face, that I'm being enormously rude because I'm wearing sunglasses. He literally won't shut up about it. But I'm not going to take them off because it's crazy sunny outside and we're walking with the sun in my eyes. The rest of the date didn't get much better. He made awkward BJ jokes the whole time and was really just mean-spirited towards me and other people. The biggest turnoff is when he tries to convince me he's some macho dude since he beat up a homeless dude for looking at him funny. I was so embarrassed to have ever wanted to go out with him. Wasn't on the date, but saw the man loudly complaining about how she ate all of his fries while she attempted by every way possible to change the conversation. Lay off me, I'm starving. Went bowling with some guy I met on a night out. Very awkward, he wanted me to take my heel boots off because we were the same height. I'm 5'7" for context. Then got all annoyed that I didn't want to. Date finished at around 9 PM, so I suggested going to get a drink. He said he didn't drink, which is fine. Then berated me for ages because I do. Saw a picture of my really pretty housemate on my phone and was like, who's she? She's so fit, and went on about her for about 5 minutes. Asked me on a second date, which surprisingly I did not accept. On our first date he let out a small fart. No big deal. I was just going to pretend it didn't happen. But he made a big deal about it and kept saying that was so awkward. I'm so sorry. I hope it doesn't smell over and over again. I could hear his roommates laughing in the other room. I had to actually reassure him it wasn't so bad to get him to shut up about it. Anyways, we've been married 2 years now. AWW. Didn't happen to me, but to a friend of mine. When I was like 16 or something, we met a few guys and my friend, let's call her Clara, had a crush on one of them. Me and another girl noticed and always kinda left those two alone in one room. It ended with Clara giving him her number. A few weeks later she told me they had a date and she seemed seriously mad. I asked what was wrong and she told me that she'd never want to see him again. She told me that the guy had accidentally dropped something in her cleavage and went ahead to pick it right out of there. That's not even the end of it. She took him to her room and he started opening up her cupboards and looking at her stuff, including her bras and panties. Never saw him again. Oh, wow, a talking kitten. Probably not his fault, but it was our first date and he was so awkward, could not carry a conversation. Only answered in one-word answers. It was like trying to pull teeth. Eventually the waiter, bless his soul, sat down with us to help out. He ended up couching the guy through answers. So you like that movie because, and giving him prompts for the conversation. Only embarrassing. Really, because it was clear to the whole restaurant what a flop the date was. In short, did not have a second date, but did go back to the restaurant. Awesome waiter, though. The second date my boyfriend and I went on, he kissed me and then turned around and walked away. He then wrote me later that night apologizing for kissing me and walking away. It was adorable. I love that man. Okay, so this might sound bad, but I really don't expect guys to pay for me. I'm all for 50-50 and I always offer to pay my half. I was hanging out with this guy once and we ordered pizza. The pizza comes and he tells me he doesn't have any cash. Fine, whatever. I had $20. The next morning we go get coffee and he tells me his coffee order so he can go to the bathroom, leaving me to pay. That night we go out for Mexican food. The bill comes and we both just sit there. No joke. 40 minutes go by. Finally we start discussing it and awkwardly agree that it's the type of place where you bring the check up to the counter instead of paying at the table. So we get up to go to the counter and neither one of us picks up the check to bring it. At this point, it was really awkward. So I walked back, got the check, and told him he owed $16 for his half. He didn't even tell me he had no money. He just kind of looked at me for a solid 20 seconds. Then I was left to pay, and he didn't so much as thank me. He still owes me like $300 for something else and I have not forgotten or forgiven the debt. No offense, but he sounds like a real loser. Guy here, but I witnessed quite possibly the worst first date ever. I was sitting on a couch at my university and this guy and girl come up and sit down on the couch across from me. I have my headphones in but can still kinda hear them, and the girl made a comment about being too loud. The guy replies now he's just chillin' like in some frat bro accent or something. I turned my music down because I knew this was gonna get good. They try to make small talk a little bit, and the guy pulls out his laptop to show the girl some songs he likes. She makes a comment about liking house music, so he goes, "This is my favorite song ever," and proceeds to play some generic Skrillex song. She was not impressed. He asks if she liked Taylor Swift. She says she hates her and has never met a guy that likes her. He goes, "Maybe you haven't been meeting the right guys." Smooth. They keep talking and he just goes, "So are you single?" She says yes. He goes, "Cool." She asks if he's single and he goes, "Yeah, hence why I asked you to lunch today. But don't worry, this isn't a date. But did you wanna go out like tomorrow or something?" This girl's body language goes to 100% frick no mode. He's sitting sideways facing her with his arms stretched across the couch back towards her. She is practically about to somersault off the armrest of the couch. Sensing he's sinking, the guy goes, "Let's talk about politics. There was an election coming up in Canada." She says she doesn't know anything about politics since she's only been in Canada for 2 years since she moved from Russia to Portugal and then on to Canada. He goes, "Oh, Portugal is in South America, right?" and then starts talking about politics again. And says, "Don't vote for Justin Trudeau for president. We have a prime minister." She tried to change the conversation. At this point the guy realized he's kinda fricked, so he throws up a Hail Mary. And I wish I was making this up, but he goes, "Let's talk about how cute you are." Girl literally says stop, like actually stop. "I'm done," and gets up and leaves. She says she hates her and has never met a guy that likes her. She should really stop hanging out with dirty liars. I once had a first and last date with this guy who tried to get me to dictate his every move. Like he wouldn't turn left or right unless I told him to. I just said, "Yeah, I'm not doing that," and sat down on a bench while he continuously walked into a wall. I had a date with a guy who I met on a dating site, and when we were walking down a trail he randomly picked me up, just snatched me off the ground and held me up for some reason. Not like a hug or twirling me around or something. Just decided to hold me around my ribcage off the ground for whatever reason. Very weird and uncomfortable. And out of the blue, he thought I was joking when I told him to put me down because it's weird. I am 5 feet and chubby and he was 6 feet 4 inches and lanky, so it probably looked as strange as it felt. His mom called to tell him that James Gandolfini, Tony Soprano, had died, and then he cried in the bar and we left. It did not work out. I would have done the same. God bless his soul. This wasn't a date. I, female, just met this guy the week before. We had the same hobby. He needed help on his end. I needed help on my end. So we decided to do our hobby together once to teach the other what we needed. I texted him my first name and phone number. We met and taught each other, blah blah blah. The purpose of the meeting. We went to lunch at a bar afterwards and got along like long lost best friends. The other men at the bar clearly assumed we were a couple. That was the first time the idea was introduced into my thought process. Well, suddenly, my new friend asks, "What is your name again?" The entire bar burst out laughing. He showed me my text. It had my name wrong by 1 letter. I showed him the text I sent. It had my name written correctly. I have no idea how that happens, but he truly didn't understand what my name was. We laughed our heads off. Flash forward almost 6 years. We just got married. I've had 2 dates that have ending with him pulling into the driveway and then making a big butt show of taking out some breath mints and popping them into their mouths while smiling at me. Really, it was a turn off to me for some reason. Like they was expecting that I would kiss them. I didn't. You know, this used to be a common move, I think. It was a first meeting from meeting online. He wanted Buffalo Wild Wings and made me drive to his side of town. He had sauce all over his face and refused napkins repeatedly from me and the waitress. He said it didn't make sense to wipe your face if you were only going to keep getting it messy. Instead, wait until you are done. The waitress kept giving me looks of pity, along with everyone with a nearby table. I actually met a guy once that was similar, and he explained how when he was little he didn't have enough money to consistently buy boxes and boxes of tissues, so he had to use them sparingly. He did say he was trying to kick the habit, however. This dude took me to eat at a Chinese buffet, put one egg roll in his plate and then proceeded to watch me eat. Hella awkward since I love Chinese buffets and I get a lot. Hey, we share a designation. It was my first date ever. I was 19. We went to Applebee's and he suggested the 2 for $20. I wanted onion rings but he said he couldn't because of his braces and then went into detail about his extensive dental work. Then he started talking about how he was ready for kids and buying a house. We then split the bill. Went on a blind date with this guy. Automatically I can tell we're not each other's type but I decide to give it a shot. He takes me to Olive Garden and talks to me the entire time about how much money he makes, how rich he is and how much he loves Gilmore Girls. When he dropped me off at home he parked the car and lingered, waiting for me to kiss him but I quickly got out. The same night he texts me, "I think it's obvious we aren't each other's types but we can still have some fun together." Never talk to him again. I hate that. Like when guys are like, "I don't really want to date you, but we can still have fun." I nope real hard. One guy told me in very vivid detail about the hole his shotgun had made in the side of an elk the last time he went hunting. I had just told him I'm a vegetarian. Gore as such doesn't bother me at all, but the fact that he thought it would be funny to tell me about it in that context. He also tried to kiss me several times and I did the hug dodge each time. Still didn't get the hint. I ended the date early and told him we're probably not a good fit, but apparently I was too polite or something since he then proceeded to call me 27 times in the next week. Didn't answer. We bumped into each other a month later and he scolded me for being heartless and leading him on. I still haven't figured out what I did that could have possibly led him on. The outright rejection or not answering his calls? We will never know. Guy here. Saw another guy on a date pull out a calculator at the restaurant I was at to calculate how they would split how much to tip the waitress. The girl wasn't impressed at all. If you're going to be a cheapskate, at least be good at mental math. We were walking out of the restaurant we just eaten at, and we ran into the so of a friend of mine. When the friend said hi to me, I stopped to say hi, ask how he was, and my date grabbed my hand and pulled me over so he could put his arm around me. First date, met online. Super weird and juvenile. I just pulled my hand back and gave him the yeah. Jealousy on the first date is a red flag bit. Plot twist. He's gay and using you to make your friend who is actually his ex jealous. First and only date. All I wanted to do was see Jurassic World and instead he tried to make me suck his dong in the back of a cave on the beach. Beach caves are frequently unstable. Your family would not have been pleased if they had excavated your bodies an hour later and found his dong in your mouth. We were watching a movie. Well, I was watching a movie and he was just staring at me. I asked him why he was doing that and he said, "I can't stop looking at you cause you're so beautiful," or something in a cheesy voice. I was actually so frustrated I said, "Just watch the fricking movie." And soon after I realized that I actually wanted to date women. From my GF. While walking around town after dinner he grabbed my breasts and exclaimed booabees. We were in our mid-20s. I had known him for 3 weeks. And it was our second date. There was no third date. I was 18. He was 32. Well, he invited me to a game. A soccer game. For his kids. I knew he had kids and did not know I would meet them so soon. His wife was there. Didn't know he had a wife. Turns out they are swingers and no one told me. It felt like I was in some sort of terrible P film. Anyway, he tried to apologize and convince me that I would enjoy my time with the two of them I might have if he had told me ahead of time. They were both attractive, but I ignored all of his phone calls for the next week. Nope, did not want to be part of that mess. Lesson learned. Hello Mrihidendlatus. My date took me out for some pizza which I thought was great. Who doesn't like pizza? But here's the issue. He ordered himself 3 slices. And one for me. One slice. There were teenagers in a Mustang yelling stuff at my date. He got out of the truck and kicked their passenger door, leaving a huge dent in their brand new car. He got back in the truck and just drove away like it wasn't a big deal. I mean, I would never do that, but I bet those kids never yelled at a random stranger again. My boyfriend at the time asked me to come meet his parents. I agreed, because they sounded awesome. I dressed up nicely, went on an afternoon date with him. then went to meet his parents around dinner time. Walked in the door and they're in their pajamas. He'd forgotten to mention he was bringing me over. They were surprisingly cool with it, a bit of an eye roll at their son, and then they were genuinely sweet about it after. But 8 years and a baby later, we're pretty dang happy. Oh my god, where to even begin? Date from heck. He was a freaking nightmare that ended the date by trying to keep me by driving me back to his mom's place, knowing I wouldn't know what to do. I was new to the area. I think the worst part was during the actual date at a really nice restaurant. He ordered a $7 bottle of wine and insisted on sniffing the cork, then gargled the sip that was poured into his glass and said it's no mellow, but it's good. Bro, we're drinking $2 Chuck White Zin. And Merlot is not a brand, it's a completely different type of wine. He also didn't have his wallet when the check came, which was weird, because he certainly did when we were carded for the wine. I paid, left 50%, handed a $20 to our waiter, who brought us a ton of bread because it's free, and another $20 to our sommelier on my way to the ladies. Yes, they were together, and talking about the dong I was with. Both got an apology, upon which they promptly insisted that I keep the money, which of course I refused. Overall, awful, but I did get to fire the guy a few months later, and it was freaking sweet. Had a sort of triple date where my date took so long ordering that I had to make small talk with the waitress twice. Then he wouldn't talk to me, but would just stare and smile at me if I asked him a question. I ended up in the bathroom crying after he told me that I was a bad dancer and walked away from me twice on the dance floor. The worst part is, B is someone that I tutor on a regular basis. I don't know why, but your username sounds like one of your dance moves. Perhaps he was onto something. This not occur to me, but to Anezka, when she is out for intimacy with Dalibor. They go to Black Lake to enjoy a leisure swim and maybe later have carnal relations on top of woolen blanket. However, all joy is interrupted by a majestic creature that is Brown Bear. They begin to run, but Bear have much better kilometrage, and Dalibor in quick panic grab Anezka and push her down to fall behind so Brown Bear can feast. Instead of plan working, Brown Bear continued chase for Dalibor and catch him, but only rough him up with warning scratches and did not execute. Dalibor receive additional beating from angry townsfolk when he returned to town, and stories leak out from Anezka. He eventually have to move in order to start new life free from negative publicity by Bear incident. This is magical. I don't know if it's embarrassing, but a guy at my college asked me to see a movie with him in our dorm, which showed movies in a little theater thing. Then intentionally took a long time eating and kept asking me questions so we could skip the start of the movie. At least, I think it was intentional. Either way, by incredible, unpredictable sheer coincidence, the only option for entertainment left us was to go back to his room and watch a movie on his computer. It worked. Smooth. A guy left me to watch soap operas in a language I didn't understand with his mother and grandmother. He also had to ask me my name when he introduced me to them. In college I went out with a guy who was a theater major. First date he makes me do the I'm hiding somewhere, find me thing in a bookshop, then ends the date a few hours later saying I have some productive things I have to do today. Made me feel kinda crappy. Went out again, we were on the subway and he decides to start singing Broadway songs on a full carriage. Not trying to get tips, which might have been worse, but just singing and making eye contact with me holding my hand. I was beyond embarrassed. Went on one date with a pathological liar. Said he turned down the Olympics for MMA because of school doesn't exist and he wasn't exactly fit, and crap like that. I ended up paying for the entire meal, and at this point I bought my own movie ticket and just tried to enjoy the movie. Can't wait to leave. He kept asking, "This means you're my girlfriend, right? Number?" If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.